sunshine, we shine together. Told you I'll be here forever. Said I'll always be your friend. Took an oath that I'm stick it out till the end. Now that it's raining more than ever, know that we still have each other. You can stand under my umbrella. You can stand under my umbrella.
Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be drafting out this deep illusion bustier pattern. If you're interested, keep on watching and let's get started. I already have my pattern paper on my work table and I'll go ahead and start marking my point. The distance from my shoulder to my chest line is 8 inches. The distance from my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my under bust point is 13 inches, and the distance from my shoulder to the half length of this top, which is also my waistline, is 16 inches. I'll go ahead and rule straight lines across all these points. After doing that, guys, I'll label my lines: my chest line, my bust point, my under bust line, and the waistline. After doing that, on the start of this pattern paper, which is my shoulder line, I'll take half of my shoulder measurement. Mine is 8 inches. I'll go down on the chest line and I'll repeat the same measurement that I have. After doing that, I'll connect the two dots into a straight line. After doing that, guys, next thing I'm going to do is to go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. So I'm going to place my tape on the straight line and I'll go down by 1 inch and I'll slant into the neckline area. So guys, the next thing I'll do is to take 3 inches for my neck width and I'll take 3 inches for the neck depth. So it depends on how you want the neckline to be, but for me, I'll be using the standard neck measurement: 3 inches for the width and 3 inches for the depth. After doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect like this. So the next thing I'm going to do is to place my tape on this straight line that we have right here, and what I have is 7 inches. I'm going to mark the middle point, which is 3.5 inches. I will indicate that point with a dot. After doing that, I'll go inward on that dot by half an inch, as you can see, and then I'm going to place my bust circumference divided by 4 on my chest line. I'll also indicate that with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect from the shoulder slope to meet the half an inch, and from the half an inch to meet the mark on the chest line, just like this. The next thing I'll do is to take my bust span measurement, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement. Mine is 4 inches. I'm going to place 4 inches on my bust point, the same 4 inches on the under bust point, and the same 4 inches on the waistline. After doing that, I'm going to connect all the dots into a straight line. I'll place my tape on the waistline and I'll go up by 1 inch. I will indicate the 1 inch with a dot. So guys, next thing I'll do is to determine how wide I want the net on the center of the top to be. So it totally depends on you. For me, I'll place my tape on the center front and I'll go out by 2.5 inches. So if you want the net to be really wide, you can do 3 inches, 3.5 inches. The next thing I'll do is to place my tape on the curved part of this armhole, and I'm going to mark about 4 inches. I'll indicate the 4 inches with a dot. I'll go ahead and use my curved ruler to connect from the 1 inch below the under bust point. This is a sweetheart neckline, so go ahead and curve it out very well. So I'll curve it to meet the 2.5 inches mark on the chest line, just like you see me doing. So the line should not be straight. After doing that, this is what I have. I'm going to connect it straight down to meet the 4 inches on the armhole area, just like you see me doing. The next thing I'll do is to extend my dart leg to meet the curve that I have above the chest line. So I'll connect it straight to meet that line. After doing that, guys, I'll go ahead and take in my dart. So what I'll do is to take 1 inch on the waistline. I'll take it on the center front. I'll take the same 1 inch on the side front. And on my under bust line, I'll go ahead and also take 1 inch. Okay, so I'll mark 1 inch on the center front and I'll mark 1 inch on the side front. After doing that, I'm going to connect the dots into a straight line like this. The next thing I'll do is to go down on the bust point by 1 inch. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to use the curved part of my ruler to connect from the under bust point to meet this 1 inch. So make sure your the curve is not too curvy and don't make it too sharp. Okay, so I'm just going to connect like this. After doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to tighten my over bust. So I'm going to place my tape on that straight line and I'll go out by 1 inch. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot. After doing that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and go up by 1 inch on the bust point. So I'll place my tape on the bust point like this. I'll go up by 1 inch and I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to connect the 1 inch dart to meet this 1 inch mark. I went up by 1 inch from the bust point because I don't want this dart to be too sharp. Okay, so after connecting, guys, this is what I have. I'm going to use my marker to blend everything in order not to run short of fabric. After taking in this 1 inch dart, I'm going to go ahead and increase the armhole area by 1 inch so that after taking in my dart, everything is going to be the same length. Okay, one part is not going to be shorter than the other one. So I'll go out by 1 inch from that straight line on the armhole area. After doing that, I'll go ahead and start placing my measurements. On the chest line, I already have my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll go ahead and replace the dart of 1 inch and I'll add 2 inches as my stitching allowance. On the under bust, I'll place my under bust circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart and I'll add my 2 inches for stitching allowance. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart and I'll also add my stitching allowance. After doing that, I'll go ahead and connect all the dots like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and extend this straight line to meet the 1 inch mark. After doing that, I'll blend it in like this. And then I'll use my ruler to curve out my new arm area. So we extended the armhole area by 1 inch. Okay, so we don't run short of fabric by the time we are sewing. So I'll be creating my new armhole using my ruler. I'll connect from that 1 inch to meet the chest line just like this. So guys, we are done with the front pattern. I'll go ahead and cut, so pay close attention so you know where to cut. After cutting, guys, this is what I have. We have the yoke, the center front and the side front. Okay, so the yoke, you're going to cut the yoke with your skin tone net or your lace. It depends on what you want to use for the yoke. We also have the center front and the side front, so let's go ahead and draft out the back. So guys, for the back, I've gone ahead to mark out my points. So the distance from my shoulder to my chest line is 8 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches. So we don't need the under bust line for the back. After the bust point, I went ahead to mark the distance from my shoulder to my waistline, which is 16 inches. So I have the chest line, the bust point and the waistline. We don't need the under bust for the back. It's not important. This is just a regular back bodice. So what I'm going to do is to place my tape on the center back and I'll take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I'll go ahead and place the same measurement on the chest line. After doing that, I'll connect the 2 dots into a straight line. The next thing I'm going to do is to go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. So I'm going to place my tape on this straight line and I'll go down by 1 inch. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a point. After doing that, I'll slant from there into the neckline area. I'll place my tape on this straight line and I'm going to mark the middle point. What I have is 7 inches. Half of 7 inches is 3.5 inches. I'll use my marker to mark the 3.5 inches. On the chest line, I'll place my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll also indicate that point. After doing that, I'll use my ruler to connect from the mark that I have on the straight line to meet the mark on the chest line like this. The next thing I'll do is to take my neck measurements. For the width, I'll be using 3 inches because we used 3 inches for the front. So the front width and the back width is supposed to be the same. And for the depth, I'll be taking 1 inch because this is the back. I don't want it to be deep. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and connect like this. After connecting, guys, the next thing I'll do is to take my bust pan measurement, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement. Mine is 4 inches. I'm going to place the 4 inches on my chest line, on my bust line, and on my waistline. I will indicate everything with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to connect all the dots into a straight line. So I'll go ahead and take half an inch on both sides of the straight line. I'll mark half an inch on the center front and half an inch, on the center back and half an inch on the side back. On my chest line, I'll go down by 1 inch. After doing that, I'll connect from the waist to meet the 1 inch. After taking in my dart, next thing I'll do is to start placing my measurements. On the chest line, I already have my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll go ahead and add 2 inches to that measurement for my stitching allowance. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart of 1 inch and I'll add 2 inches as my stitching allowance. After doing that, I'll go ahead and connect the dots just like this. So guys, I forgot to add my zipper allowance to the back of this pattern paper, so don't forget to do that. Go ahead and add your zipper allowance before you start drafting. So what I'm going to do is to attach another paper to this center back as my zipper allowance. Okay, so guys, after cutting out the back piece, I went ahead to also cut out this pattern paper that I'll be using as the zipper allowance. So I'm marking my zipper allowance, which is 1 inch, and then I'll cut out the excess pattern paper. So do this before you start taking your measurements. So this is my zipper allowance of 1 inch. The next thing I'll do is to adjust the zipper allowance. On the waistline, I'm going to mark half an inch. Okay, this is to avoid zip bulge. I'm going to go ahead and slant from that point to meet the shoulder line, just like you see me doing. Okay, so that my zip will not bulge after fixing it. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut. After cutting, guys, this is what we have for the back, and you can choose to do any type of neckline that you want for the back, but this is just a regular back bodice. Yeah guys, these are all the patterns that you'll be needing for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video, leave your questions in the comment section. I'll see you guys in the next one.